Welcome to the Grow Your Practice podcast. Hi, I'm your host, Chad Madden, owner of Madden Physical Therapy and Breakthrough. Join me each week as we dive into the best practices, systems, principles, tips, and tricks to help you grow your private practice.
Today, we're going to be talking about setting up a marketing budget. If you could share what typically gets in the way, that would be a great start, and I'll make sure I cover that. John says, not tracking the ROI. We can go as deep as you like on this. I'll get rolling and talk about how this evolved for me over time, and then also how I see other owners and really our industry, how it has evolved as well. How do I set up a marketing budget? If I have a very short answer to the question, it's this: 10%, and this is the rule that we go by today, in a growing clinic. That's something with the capacity to treat more, whether we have schedules that are not, if we don't have a waiting list, for example, then this rule applies. Or if we have space to fill, let's say we have a 2,000 square foot clinic and we only have 2 clinicians in there, when we really think that we could have 4 full-time clinicians, that would be capacity to treat more as well. If we have schedules to fill or space to fill, then this rule applies. 10% of our gross revenue is going to be dedicated to growing that practice. And there's lots of different ways that I'll break that down, but that's a pretty good rule. If we have a clinic that's doing $100,000 a month in gross revenue, then we should be willing to invest up to $10,000, 10% of that 100,000, in order to grow that practice, fill the schedules, fill the space. And yeah, lots of pitfalls we can talk about. If you have any questions as I'm going through, just feel free to type it in the chat. We can bring you on live. But in the very beginning, when I first opened up, I had a goal of, I think it was seeing 48 or 50 visits a week by myself, and wrote out a 12-month plan, a financial plan, a pro forma of what that would look like. For my marketing line, I had it was either $250 or $500 a month. And that was obviously far less than the expected revenue of roughly $20,000 a month for a solo clinician, or when we added that second clinician, $40,000 a month roughly. It was pretty anemic. And, looking at the industry standard back then, and then even what it was today here, last time I looked, I think was 2019. Right now, it's about 2%. Private practice across the board invests about 2% in the marketing. And if you're in private practice PT like I am, you know that most of our history, we relied on physician referrals. When I opened up in 2003, nearly 100% of the new business that was coming through, what came from a physician referral. Right? We didn't really think about direct-to-consumer marketing yet, although there have been practices that have been doing that in Pennsylvania long before direct access came to be, right? And even as recently as a few years ago, the majority of our practice still was not going direct-to-consumer. Let's break down what exactly that money is dedicated towards. Now we have a little bit of, most marketers will call it gunpowder, right? We have a little bit of power where we can start thinking about how to attract new patients. Well, in private practice, there are 5 ways that we can attract a new patient. The most basic one is reactivation. That's a past patient that, I treated Mary 2 years ago for her total knee replacement, and now she's coming back. She's reactivated for her back, or maybe she's even having trouble with her knee still, right? That would be a reactivation. Next, and we should have money dedicated to there. Lots of things we can do, from direct mail to email to text campaigns to write a single handwritten letter to Mary. You get the idea. So lots of ways that we can invest with our gunpowder there. And next level up, we have word of mouth referrals. Now, you want to make sure you're following your Practice Act and that you're compliant with all the rules around the insurance contracts you have and everything else. But for example, you could, recognize and acknowledge those people that have patients that have referred another patient to you, right? So lots of examples that I've heard here. For us, I know we've done a couple different things. One was we would send somebody, what's that called? A roll of Mentos, looked like a stick of dynamite. One of our marketers invented this, and he would send it off to the person that did the word of mouth referral with a handwritten note and said, we really think you're dynamite for referring somebody else to us. I mean, that was just one small, that probably cost us $3 to to do, maybe $5 to execute on, but you get the idea there. Some of the best things that I've ever heard are sending like flowers or balloons to the person that made the referral, send it to their workplace. That would be a pretty wise investment because it gets everybody talking and just something to think about there. Next level up, we have word of mouth referrals, then we have the physician or nurse practitioner PAC referrals, and whatever you do there, maybe you're still doing lunches, maybe you're dropping off coffee or, basically white powder, which is sugar and flour in the form of baked goods or whatever you're doing there. Fantastic. You can make an investment there. Frankly, we don't do a lot of that today. We just do a single physician mailer on gloss stock, and we send that out to about 3,000 potential referral sources, but that makes up a very small portion of our total new patients coming through, about 10%, 11%. Above that, we have partners referring, right? You can invest in going out to large employers in your area that offer their employees the best employment services, or maybe you're offering some sort of, workers' comp or OCMED type service within your practice. And then finally, we have cold traffic marketing. Now, when we have a brand new clinic, we call it our COVID clinic, which is in Shrewsbury, Pennsylvania. We opened that March 9th of 2020. And the pandemic hit central Pennsylvania here March 13th. We opened on a Monday. Friday the 13th of that week, we had to shut everything down. Literally worst timing ever. Good news today so we opened up in 1,800 square feet. That clinic is now 5,000 square feet and sees upwards of 450 visits a week. It was more than 45 minutes away from any other clinic that we have. And what we did in that case is, obviously we have no revenue. You can't take 10% of zero, right? We forecasted forward and we said, okay, what would this look like with 2 full-time teams? Matt Conroy is our clinical director there. He did an absolutely amazing job. And he had a financial plan, and that was to hire somebody fairly quickly. The month before, in February of 2020, we hosted 2 workshops. Workshops are nothing more than a mechanism to convert your cold traffic marketing leads a plan of care. It's not the advertising method or anything else. We use Meta here with Breakthrough, Facebook and Instagram marketing, and then also an offline newspaper that's now defunct. But we advertised 2 workshops before we opened up. And what happened from those workshops is we were able to generate, I believe it was 18 new patients that really seeded the clinic for when we did open up on March 9th. In the beginning, because we're not an established clinic yet, we really have to ignore those lower tiers, right? We don't have a huge patient list. There's no reactivations. We don't have a huge patient list. There's no word of mouth referrals. We're not in the area yet. We didn't really have any physician relationships that were cultivated, and we didn't really know who the largest employers were yet in the area because we use our EMR to figure that out. But nonetheless, you get the idea. We had to go cold traffic marketing. So, and the way that we generated any sort of budget is we forecasted forward and said, okay, 2 full-time clinicians here would be generating, I forget the exact number we used, might have been $40,000, $50,000. Our marketing budget is, let's call it $4,000 a month. And we dedicated nearly 100% of that to cold traffic marketing just to see that clinic. And again, we did online with Meta here and the advertising services with Breakthrough, and then also added in an additional print ad in a local paper, ran 2 of those workshops. And then up until we had a significant patient list, which probably took a year in that clinic, the majority of the money went to cold traffic marketing. We started doing that probably a year in. Remember, my initial marketing budget was around $500. And then fairly quickly, once I figured out we were going to have to start investing, that went up to, at any point, 10% of our revenue. The other thing that I'll say is, as we fill a clinic, we'll go back to that Shrewsbury clinic, as that is full and we run out of space and we run out of schedule and we start creating waiting lists and things like that, the director there, what we'll try to do is we will try to get more and more efficient. We'll go from 10% down to 9% and make sure that we're not cannibalizing our new patients or wrecking our new patient flow. And the other thing to keep in mind is that, it's when we're investing in marketing, which I think of as like positioning of the clinic, we're primarily building future pipeline. I know one of the things that will happen a lot if an owner reaches out to me personally and wants to go through they're thinking about selling their practice, is they'll make a huge error and try to save money in marketing. And what that does is wrecks future pipeline. But you want to make sure that if you're going to do that, that you have some things that are in place that are very strong. For us, we find that, attempting to take a 1% cut and making sure that doesn't affect our results is what keeps us honest in the marketing department. The other thing that I want to say is I'll say been challenged a few times that, if the industry average is 1.9%, then that's what we all should be doing as private practice owners. When we open a de novo clinic, which, if you're doing that, they cost between 150 to 300K, depending on the size to open. We view that underutilized space in the beginning as it's a liability, right? If we have 2,000 square feet and we only need 500 square feet, we have 1,500 square feet that we're paying for every single month that incurs a cost, has utility cost, et cetera. That is really a liability. My goal is to fill that up as quickly as possible. That is impossible to do unless, something that I don't around a 1.9% budget. It's just not going to happen. And even in the most extreme cases, when an owner has said, hey, I'm more efficient than you are, we don't spend 10%, we don't spend anything. And they'll typically go down the line of, I provide high quality of care and rely on word of mouth referral, right? You should understand a little bit historically where that comes from. That is really from the 1860s AMA predecessor that was written in the guidelines. And what they wanted to do was separate themselves. Remember, this was a world where there was no social media. There were no smartphones. There were no telephones. There was no electricity. There were no automobiles. There were no paved roads. Everybody was riding horses, right, on dirt roads. And basically all the amenities of modern life we didn't have, and especially communication, right? What was happening is people were being victimized by charlatans, right, snake oil salesmen from town to town. And the AMA was trying to position their physicians who were trained, who had went through training, they were trying to position that level of education against somebody who had no level education, but could stand on a soapbox and sell snake oil, right, as a cure-all and elixirs and stuff like that, right? They said, okay, these people are advertising, we're not going to advertise. The AMA quickly switched course, and by 1903, that guideline was out. But it didn't stop. That you still hear that today, right? I'll talk with owners frequently that will rely on that, and they don't even understand that concept is more than 150 years old, and it's long been written out of the most guidelines. The exception would be, I believe it's Ontario, or that's a Canadian province, Alberta. It's Alberta, a Canadian province. I believe they still have it in their guidelines, but if you're in the 50 states, that's not part of your practice act right now, is that you shouldn't advertise your services.
Before we continue with this episode, here's a word about our course, Profitability Under Pressure.
Hi, Chad Madden here, introducing you to Profitability Under Pressure, a 90-day masterclass designed to help you build a financial system in your practice to improve your revenue per visit and the bottom line profit margins of your practice. Many practice owners like you are facing declining reimbursements and increasing operational expenses, making it nearly impossible to maintain the financial health of their practice. The Profitability Under Pressure program helps you build a system for your private practice based on what's working for other owners, other private practice owners in today's market. This single system is going to help you increase your profit margins, increase the safety, stability of your private practice, help you regain your time freedom, get your time back, and help more people within your community. With our program, you'll learn all about the profit leak audit, helping you find valuable lost dollars within your practice. You'll learn about the profit planner, helping you plan ahead for profitability. And you'll also learn the 4 profit levers, which are the systems and processes that are working in today's market to help practice owners take their practice to the next level. In addition, you'll receive a 90-day trial of our patient demand software, which is the same exact marketing system that I use in my private practice. And you'll also get exclusive access to our Insider Circle community. Don't just take our word for it. Hear from practice owners like Lance Gross, who just shared that he added over $1 million to his bottom line this year alone doing the profit leak audit. Or Peg Gray, who after decades of frustration finally feels like she has her finances under control. You'll want to apply today.
Thank you for listening this far. Now back to the episode.
The other way to think about it is this. You likely specialize in something different than I do, right? If I specialize in back pain and sciatica and you specialize in TMJ, does it not make sense to let people in the community know what we specialize in and can help with the best? You're on my screen. If I have a practice in Houston, which is where you're at, and you have an issue with your shoulder, you want to see somebody who's a specialist for shoulder, right? Not just a physical therapist, not just whatever the industry might be, the specialist might be, but you want to see somebody that specializes in that, that's an expert in that. I realize there's a lot of fallacy in like the idea behind not marketing. I believe that whether, you have space to fill or schedules to fill, that at least marking 10% to market your services to position your services within the community and drive future demand is ideal. And then if you can get more efficient over time, fantastic. The flip side of that is I'd say if you're at 0 today and the only thing you've never marketed at all, ramp up the other way. There's this concept that Jim Collins talks about, who wrote Good to Great, Built to Last, a few other business books. But he talks about this concept of bullets, then cannonballs. And here's what that means. The analogy that he gives is, imagine you're on a warship and you're fighting in a war and you have a big pile of gunpowder. And he said what many small, medium-sized business owners will do is they will take all of that gunpowder and then just fire one big shot. And then if they miss the target, the enemy warship, they're basically out of gunpowder and they end up getting sunk themselves. He said there's a smarter way to do it, and this applies to marketing. He said, and it's fire bullets first to calibrate, to make sure you hit the target, you understand the angle and distance and everything else, and then use your gunpowder, right? Like hedging your bet. And I'll give an example. This past month, we just did our second one last week, but for years we've done back pain workshops, shoulder pain workshops, knee pain, arthritis. We tested a huge volume of different diagnoses, and our best performers always were rotator cuff, back, and knee. And we had a few owners that we work with through Breakthrough, and this has been a long-standing request of doing pelvic floor. We wanted to go through this concept and apply bullets then cannonballs. We worked with our owners. What are the top 3 demographics that we can target here? Because, if we have money to invest in attracting cold traffic, primarily through patient education, how should we invest that money? It starts with, in market message media match, you pick your target market first. Well, the 3 biggest target markets from the owners that we work with in Breakthrough for pelvic floor health, right, which is the issue or the diagnosis that we're attracting. The 3 biggest demographics are, number 1 is expecting or new mothers with pelvic issues. Very high relevance, prevalence rate. Right. And she also happens to be on social media often. The second one is men with prostate issues, and they tend to skew older, right? My age and older, and also not on social as much, harder to reach. And then the third group is people undergoing gender reassignment. They were the 3 most prevalent groups that our pelvic floor specialists were treating within Breakthrough. So this is, again, all North America. The second 2 groups are difficult to reach and less prevalent. We wanted to hedge our bet, and I worked with our copywriter at the time, just reached out to her, talked with her last week about this, the person that did all of the writing for the ads and the landing page and the scripting and everything else. And it was written very generalized, right? We were trying to be everything to everybody that had a pelvic floor issue, and we didn't want to focus in any way at all. And then, what I said was, well, before we do this and we start investing money here, because I'm going to invest thousands of dollars in promoting this, let's get one very focused group. Who is the group that we think is going to respond the best? And for us, that happened to be, for pelvic floor, was the expecting mother. We did the first workshop. Huge response. I forget the exact number. I think we had 55 registrants. This last one that we ran last week, we had 57, right? We have plenty of gunpowder with the 10%. And just to give you real numbers, that was for the Harrisburg office. Right here, we do roughly 3 million a year in revenue. We have a $300,000 marketing budget per year, or 75,000 a quarter, 25,000 a month. We have a lot of firepower there. We also have a gigantic patient list, which we take care of, right, through direct mail, email campaigns, text messages, et cetera. And now this is our cold traffic market. We did that, 57 people, had a great show up rate, very good response rate, generated a lot of new patients. I don't remember the exact conversion numbers. This last one that we did, we had 55 registrants. We had, I think, 31 confirmed, and then 14 people ended up going straight to an eval, right? That's the cold traffic marketing. But none of that happens if we're back at a zero marketing budget. Right now, there are these expecting new moms that have pelvic floor issues. We've been able to offer them education, and now we're able to deliver care to them as well, so that they can avoid unnecessary medications, injection surgery, get the natural healing treatment options they're looking for, and they're able to perform their roles better in the workplace or at home as mothers, wives, grandmothers in the future, et cetera. All right, went over quite a bit there. The other thing, John asked that not tracking the ROI. This is tough. Wow, can I show it? And then what would the listeners look at? Okay, I'll explain this. We have a month. We look at this. Well, first, there's something called attribution, which is we want to attribute every single new patient we see to one of those 5 areas: reactivation, word of mouth referrals, physician referral, partner referral, or cold traffic. We go there first, and every patient that comes through, they do an intake form, and we ask it once on there. Our receptionist verifies that. Yeah, it says here, you came in through a Facebook ad. Is that right? And yeah, he says yes. Right, now it's verified. We also do patient interviews with members of our marketing team. And now we have a third method of attribution. And here's the most ridiculous truth ever. Not everybody knows how they came into your clinic. The attribution is not going to be perfect. The other thing that happens is, let's say he was in 9 years ago for her shoulder, and now her doctor referred her, or a friend said she should come in for an ankle sprain, right? How do you count that? Is she a reactivated patient, or is she something else? We've looked a million different ways. We trust the patient, and unless they're in our system. If they're already in our system, we're going to assume that she's still getting the newsletter, she's still getting email campaigns from us, she's still getting text campaigns from us, and we always count that as a reactivation. In our more established clinics, probably because of the bias that I just shared in attribution, about 60% of our new patients coming through are reactivations, including this one here, which has been here for 21 years. That's the ROI is tricky. Do you split that patient in half? Who did that? Ashurbanipal, right? The ruler chopped the baby in half. Maybe it was Hannibal. Anyhow, some ruler did that as a ruling in the past, who was considered very wise. But yeah, you get the, do you count it as a half patient? That's kind of weird if you're looking for true attribution. We mitigate to like the lowest hanging fruit. If they're a reactivation, we'll count them as that. If they come in via some other method, we're counting them in one of those other 5 categories. What we've seen is that there is an evolution. When our brand new clinics, they're heavily weighted in both attribution and then also where we invest that marketing money. They're more, because of the nature of de novo clinics, they have to be higher. A higher percentage has to go to cold traffic marketing. As that clinic matures and they're now 5 years old, 10 years old, et cetera, and they're established, we should be getting more and more patients that are coming through, new patients that are coming through those low-hanging fruit channels, like reactivations, like word-of-mouth referrals. We should have a great partner list 10 years in that we're going to the largest employers in the area, because we know the insurances, the best paying insurances that they're offering their employees. You get the idea there. But yeah, one more principle I can share if we don't have any questions is Peter Drucker has this principle called, I think it's quantity, quality, viability. With your marketing, the first thing that you're looking to do is you want to drive quantity, right? And I can remember when I first opened up, I had a business plan written on 5 new patients a week. And pretty much every night that I went home, my wife would ask me, did you get your 5 this week yet? Like there's a drive around quantity. Once you have sufficient quantity, and let's say you have a waiting list, and maybe you're very focused on hiring right now and adding additional licenses, clinicians, et cetera. The next thing that you want to think about is like, don't just drop your marketing because you have a waiting list and you've built sufficient demand for your services. Yes, you should continue on the personnel route, doing your sourcing, interviewing, et cetera. But then also think about in your marketing, taking it to the next level, it's quantity, then quality. Is there a way we can attract a better paying insurance mix? And, or is there a way that we can attract a better diagnosis, right? We have diagnoses that are worth a lot to our practice versus others, right? You'd want to know those numbers and think about that, but it's quantity, then quality. And the final one is viability, which is where you're getting into, how much are we investing in these different areas? Like, for example, in the beginning, in any new market, I'm willing to break even on cold traffic marketing costs. And then the goal is to constantly get better, get more and more viable. But yeah, pretty tough to do that in the beginning, especially with a new campaign. John has a question here. What have you found to be the sweet spot for the number of times to reach out to past clients? What is too much? What has been your most successful message? All right. Pretty complex question, John. Okay, let's think about this. Your patient list, there's 2 types of efforts. The first effort is a 1-to-1. If I'm the clinician and you're the patient, hi, John, it's been 6 months since I last saw you for your shoulder. I heard you went back to beach volleyball, saw a post online. How are you doing? Right. That is very effective 1-to-1, but it was highly personalized to you. And I could never turn around and send that to another patient with that, where it would make sense. So I can't scale that. I can do a lot of them though. That is significant. That's going to be a very high response rate, 90% plus response rate if sent via text, email, or direct mail. However, that's not scalable. That's 1-to-1, highly personal. On the other end, we have 1-to-many, right? And that's going to be an email campaign or a direct mail piece or a text message that we send to 20,000 people, right? That is different. And that messaging must be different. The single best thing that I've ever seen done in a 1-to-many is Carl Mattiola, the co-founder here and CEO at Breakthrough, teaches this thing called the single question email. And it's something along the lines of, we're doing research in the last 30 days, and typically it's around like a specific body part. In the last 30 days, what's the worst shoulder pain that you've had, right? You're going to get a ton of responses. We just had a practice send this out. They had roughly 200 responders to that email. The first time we ever sent it out, I walked in on a Monday morning and the reception team was like, you need to shut it off. I had no idea what they were talking about. I didn't know if there was a leak or if there was like an HVAC problem, or I had no clue what they were talking about. And they said that whatever you sent out over the weekend. And I said, I didn't send anything out. It was an automated campaign that we had scheduled. But it went out on Sunday. And at that point, I had them count. We had 221 responses within the first few hours. And so that took a lot of time to go back and respond to. But yeah, a message like that works really well. Direct mail is different. It's a different media, and text is different than email. But yeah, the other thing you asked, what is too much? Unless you're crushing your list with offers all the time, very rare that you would do too much. You shouldn't be afraid of like an unsubscribe or anything like that. They're going to happen. People don't want to be communicated with email or text or something like that, and they'll just opt out. That's fine. Don't worry about it. But the majority of people, as long as you're delivering value to your list, and for those that are consuming your content, you're giving offers to in terms of reactivation, which is exactly what we do. That's that 1-2 punch is great, and people aren't going to feel like you're messaging them too much. Awesome. We are at time here. I hope you got a lot out of this and it was answered your questions around marketing budget. Thanks, everybody. Hi, Chad Madden here, introducing you to Profitability Under Pressure, a 90-day masterclass designed to help you build a financial system in your practice to improve your revenue per visit and the bottom line profit margins of your practice. Many practice owners like you are facing declining reimbursements and increasing operational expenses, making it nearly impossible to maintain the financial health of their practice. The Profitability Under Pressure program helps you build a system for your private practice based on what's working for other owners, other private practice owners in today's market. This single system is going to help you increase your profit margins, increase the safety, stability of your private practice, help you regain your time freedom, get your time back, and help more people within your community. With our program, you'll learn all about the profit leak audit, helping you find valuable lost dollars within your practice. You'll learn about the profit planner, helping you plan ahead for profitability. And you'll also learn the 4 profit levers, which are the systems and processes that are working in today's market to help practice owners take their practice to the next level. In addition, you'll receive a 90-day trial of our patient demand software, which is the same exact marketing system that I use in my private practice. And you'll also get exclusive access to our Insider Circle community. Don't just take our word for it. Hear from practice owners like Lance Gross, who just shared that he added over $1 million to his bottom line this year alone doing the profit leak audit. Or Peg Ray, who after decades of frustration finally feels like she has her finances under control. You'll want to apply today.